Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Film Angle. I'm Kris,
And I'm Alex.
and we're so happy to have Alex back with us after spending some time away for a much deserved break in Greece. But he's back and ready to get back in navigating the world of podcasting.
I'm back, Kris, and I feel the need for speed.
Yeah, we've got some big films to talk about today. How about we start with the film that, no hyperbole here, has taken the world by storm, and that is Top Gun Maverick. But was it just nostalgia for the legacy torch that the original held in people's hearts, or was it simply that good?
I think it's been, just checking it out there. I think it's been pretty good, and I think it's very much worth the hype. I think Top Gun is a brilliant legacy sequel, and we'll get into the reasons why, I'm sure.
Okay, so if we get into the plot, so Top Gun Maverick is, of course, the sequel to the 1986 film and follows Captain Pete Maverick, who is still in the aviation game. He's very much where he belongs, pushing the limits of aviation as a test pilot before being grounded by his superior, played by Ed Harris, the always reliable Ed Harris, for flying without authorization and subsequently destroying like $1 billion jet or something like that. So yeah, Maverick is permanently grounded, and his flying days seem to be over before old buddy Iceman steps in and requests that Maverick is made an instructor at the Top Gun Academy to ready a new generation of pilots for a seemingly impossible mission.
Yes, and you don't have to see the first, I would say. It very much, this film is set 35, 36 years after the first one, or it's at least being released 35, 36 years after the first one. And it brings you straight into the action. I knew I was in for a good time as soon as that kind of opening sequence. You've got Top Gun, you've got Tom Cruise in the stealth jet, trying to push it for his teammates. There's a lot of story going on with also like this kind of like wondrous set piece. It very much reminded me of the opening of First Man, which again sets up the story so well. You put a character in a perilous situation, you see how they deal, why they're doing with it, and you're thrown straight into this guy's world. You know what he's all about, you know why he's doing it, and then you kind of like start the story. It was a brilliant opening set piece, and I knew I was in for a good time right there and then.
Yeah, I actually, funny you mentioned that because I remember watching that sequence at the beginning and thinking about First Man because that also has a really sort of white knuckle first opening scene where you get to see where he's doing a test as well for this new aircraft. But yeah, it's there's similarities to be made there. I was bowled over by this film, to be honest. I actually don't really have like yourself have a really strong relationship with the original film. I only watched Top Gun, the original one, about a month ago, and I really liked it. I thought it was a really fun feature length Men's Health advert. Has a terrific soundtrack and is the ultimate. It is the ultimate like pro military fantasy. Which there was a lot of movies like that in the 80s. Um, but I really did have fun with it, and I had to say that Top Gun Maverick just takes that to another level, both technically and emotionally.
I have a slightly different relationship to Top Gun. My dad loves Top Gun. He was in the military, and it's his favorite film. He saw it in Berlin, and yeah, it's kind of stuck with him ever since. I've watched it a few times with him. I'm not gonna lie, the first Top Gun, not my favorite film. Think it's okay. Think it's okay. Don't love it. It's fine. It's fine. But my dad was down during the opening weekend. I was like, we got to go see this together. So we took a family trip out to see it on the biggest screen we could in Bristol, and it was quite an emotional journey, and just seeing my dad really love this film as well. Um, is it was just it was something special. I really enjoyed the film, but just seeing my dad react to it as well was excellent, and just seeing that he was happy with the sequel as well to his
Yeah,
favorite film. Got to be a good feeling.
That's like such it's like I love movies like this that sort of like just bring it's sort of corny to say, but it brings families and different generations together, doesn't it? It's like something you can really share. And it's really great whenever that's actually turns out to be a good product and not actually something that isn't so good. Yeah, you're right. Look, see it in the biggest screen possible. I managed to go see it in IMAX, which is without a doubt the best way to watch this movie. It is just the scale of what's being presented to you. All the aviation stuff, all the inside the cockpit stuff is crazy. The editing on those action scenes is super tight with these exterior shots of the action, as well as inside the cockpits, and the feedback between the two is so meticulously designed that within an inch of itself, that every moment just makes sense, and it's just stuff. It's not just stuff happening, and that really added to the sense of tension through all those action scenes. I felt.
Yeah, and a good chunk of it was shot for real. You know that's what Tom Cruise does now. That's what he brings to the table. His star power.
Mhm.
He's maybe the last movie star, the last guy to get people in seats in the cinema. It's because there's a promise of like I've gone above and beyond to get the footage that you're seeing today, and
Yeah,
him and the rest of the cast literally were in fighter jets for you know the majority of the action scenes. I'm sure there was some trickery there and every now and then, but they had to go through like a training camp to actually like get up there and film the scenes. They had to turn the cameras on and kind of like remember their lines, and the director just had to hope that when they came back down, they'd got the footage that he'd wanted, and then you know he got to see the dailies and kind of go from there. It's pretty mad. It's a kind of really puts a lot of other films to shame how much effort was put into actually making this look as real as possible. Really,
and for those action scenes to be so coherent, where I know every move that he's making is making sense, and like I know what the guy's got to do next to get to here to get to there, and that's a strong feat. I mean, that must have been a nightmare to edit and get those shots to match up perfectly. But I mean, no surprise here. Tom Cruise is working again with the likes of Christopher McQuarrie, who is they've been partners on the last couple of Mission Impossible movies. And like what those movies do so well is create some of the most visceral, thrilling action scenes you've probably ever seen. But by literally putting Tom Cruise, as you said, in the path of danger, like he's really driving those cars. He really is scaling those buildings. And here he's at least in the cockpit, maybe not piloting it, but he's at least he's there. And that's the difference.
I think as well. You mentioned Christopher McQuarrie, who was a co-writer on the script. He didn't direct it. That was Joseph Kaczynski. I'm not
Kaczynski,
sure
yeah,
how to
that's
pronounce.
correct.
Who's got another film coming out on Netflix, literally like this week, I think. When Netflix yet again aren't doing any advertising for
He did the
which is mad
Tron
because
reboot, didn't he?
that's
Tron
right,
Legacy.
that's right. I think he might have done a Pirates of the Caribbean film, maybe, or did he? I might be wrong in that.
I'm not sure, not sure.
We'll have to fact check that one. But yeah, going back to Christopher McQuarrie, he's a brilliant writer because he kind of really knows the bare bones of like an action film. He knows how to like break it down to its simplest elements and really like heighten the emotion. I think that's why the last couple of Mission Impossible films have worked really well because he's got these action set pieces and he's able to create like quite a powerful story around it that really kind of dives deep. It's not too complex. Everybody can kind of like join in. There's no kind of there's no complexity that would make it confusing or difficult for anybody just to sit down and watch this film. But the emotions are there; they're raw on the screen for you to see. It takes the death of Goose from the first film and kind
Yeah.
of really plays on that and brings all that kind of trauma and guilt and kind of the aftermath of that to the front in this film where Miles Teller plays Goose's son, call
Yeah.
sign Rooster, and Tom Cruise is almost like a kind of surrogate father to him, and they've got a troubled relationship and stuff like that, and it brings all that. And man, I was welling up through a lot of this film. There's a lot of good stuff. I mean, you know, Tom Cruise stares through a lot of windows, looking very sad, and you know, I felt sad with him.
Yeah, because you just believe it though, don't you? I mean, the guy is he's got this charisma. Like I every even if it's a bad movie, and I just watching Tom Cruise, I could watch the guy all day. But I think Miles Teller does a really good job in matching that energy, and they both have a really interesting dynamic. And like I said, even if you haven't seen the first movie, you're still going to follow that plot line really well because its simplicity is what makes it so good, and it's road maps so well, and has such a terrific score underlining that. You've got all the original songs from the first Top Gun movie, or they're all back here, all albeit except "Take My Breath Away," but everything else is here. And that Hans Zimmer score, and I think he partnered up with Lady Gaga on this one.
Yeah.
She would, yeah, and it was really good. I mean, like speaking of emotion, like it just really sneaks up on you, doesn't it? Especially the third act. When the third act kicks in, it really kicks in, and everything is filing on all cylinders. The story, the stakes, the action, the soundtrack, everything. And it's just a perfect summer blockbuster. And we kind of forgotten what those look like sometimes, but Tom Cruise is back to remind us what that is like.
So obviously on top of kind of Tom Cruise and Miles Teller, we get Jennifer Connelly, who's playing a new character, but a character that was mentioned. Uh, the
Yeah,
the the female lead of the first film is not back. Um,
for
I
vanity
don't.
reasons.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think she aged as gracefully as Tom Cruise, and because it's Hollywood, Hollywood was like, no, no, we don't put
Yeah.
people who look their age in
And Jennifer
films.
Connelly is about 10 years younger, isn't she, as well?
Oh, is she? Is she? I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I know, obviously, the whole film is about Maverick fighting, or like trying to have a reason for not being such of a maverick. Like he needs a family to come back to, and Jennifer Connelly plays a big part of that. Miles Teller plays a big part in that. Like the opening scene is him by himself fixing up a plane, and then the closing scene
Yeah.
is him fixing up that plane with other people surrounding him. Like it's very on the nose. But I found their scenes to be maybe the weakest because I just thought it felt very old school to have a kind of like hacked on romantic plot. Did
Yeah.
you feel similar with that one?
I feel like it was definitely the weakest element of the movie, but it still was fine. Like I still enjoyed it.
Oh
Like it was
yeah.
still like it was like a nice little like break between scenes. Like I treated that as a sort of like a little just take a little breath and enjoy. But I enjoy Jennifer Connelly anyway. I like her as an actress, so I kind of like their dynamic. It was good to see her sailing skills because she does sailing as a hobby in real life. And I assume she was actually sailing that boat, which was pretty impressive. It was like on its side and everything. So yeah, it was just a little bit of like extra little seasoning in there, wasn't it? More than anything.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I actually have my RYA sailing license level 1, so
Oh right, we're
I could I
saved. We're saved.
I could probably put a boat on its side as well. So not that impressive. No, I'm joking. I did it with a little plastic boat.
What did you think of the Val Kilmer's Iceman? How he was handled?
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet. I wasn't sure if we were going to get a cameo from him or not. I was really happy that we did, and obviously they kind of integrated the fact that in real life he has throat cancer and is very much in the same kind of
Yeah,
way as his character is, where it hurts to talk and he can't do a lot of it. I thought maybe it was a little bit like, ugh, like when they killed him off in the film, and I was like, oh man, I wonder how you feel as Val Kilmer, um, watching that and being like, that could be me. Uh,
yeah.
and touch wood, like really touch wood, it isn't.
Well, hopefully
We
he sees it like any other film where he's playing a role.
Yeah, I know. I think it just a little bit of me was like, oh god, I hope
Yeah.
we don't have to see that in real life anytime soon. But yeah, obviously we hope he has a fast recovery. But I know he's been suffering with this for a little while now. But yeah, nice. I think they pretty nicely kind of put it in there. Maybe not the death scene, but the cameo scene itself.
there was real sort of class and integrity, and just it was just a nice little nod. And I thought the exchange between them two was very just nice. Like the rest of the movie, very nice and simple. But another thing I really like about both of these movies, the first movie as well, is I really appreciate. This is on something else now. I really appreciate the fact that the enemies, um, in the movies are never labeled by country or motive. I quite like the way we know that here's this bad guy, here's the mission, this is what we got to do, and all the conflict of those two movies is sort of more internal. We don't need to know who the bad guys are, just that they're bad guys.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But did it not just bug you a little bit? Because I was like, did I miss something? Where are they going? Who are the bad guys?
No, I really did not mind at all. I actually really I preferred it. It's
Oh,
usually
really?
like instead of putting like something like a stan at the end of the of it, it's like you don't need to know. Like it's not the point of the story. Like the mission is just like it's more just like we've got to overcome this mission, and I don't really care who the enemy. I thought it made it way less political, and I
I
think
think they almost decided on a villain at one point, and then they were like, "Nah, actually, we might want it to open in China." And they're like, "Oh, Russia." They're
but the
like, "Oh,
first movie does it as well.
okay, I didn't remember that." So there you
Yeah.
go.
The
I don't
enemies are
remember.
never, or we never know who the enemy. It's exactly the same in the first movie. Yeah, I think it just dodges being pro-American military propaganda, and that's a good choice.
Yeah, to an extent. To an extent, to an extent, I think it does. It's still it's still very much military propaganda, but it's heartwarming and nice, and
Yeah, and definitely the movie definitely like evokes the iconography. It's kind of like refining the raw ingredients of its predecessor, and it's very nostalgic without ever doing that thing of being like a modern legacy film. And doing like we'll be mentioning one of those modern like those movies later on, that's pandering to the audience with cheap tricks. But I would argue as well that it'll be interesting to watch the original film after this again, because it almost makes the original film retroactively better. It's
yeah,
like they're actually adding depth to the original and layers that weren't previously there, and I'd argue that's what the original film was probably lacking.
100%. I very much agree with that. It's almost like they come better as a pair now.
Yeah, yeah. I liked the first movie. I knew it was going to be like going into it, so I went into it, and it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I had fun. But yeah, this movie it was way better than it had any right to be, and I'm glad. I wish I got to see it again in IMAX because it was such an experience. But I'm looking forward to watching it again with my dad as well, because I know he hasn't had a chance to see it, and he's a big fan of the original film too.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's one of those ones to watch with the parents, or the generation who went to see the original film, because no doubt that everybody of all ages is going to love this.
definitely, definitely. It's up there with those kind of like blockbuster legacy sequels, like your Mad Max Fury Roads, which some thought and some effort has gone into it, and not only is it a good sequel, it's just a good film, and really understands that cinema can be used. If you're making a blockbuster film, cinematically, you can put a lot of fun into how audiences react to like everything going on the screen. I don't think that was the most coherent sentence in the world. What I'm trying to say is that
It's-
it pushes the limits of like things we've seen on film and how things have been captured on film in a film with this kind of budget, with this kind of like energy. And yeah, I just had a good time, and it just reminded me why I like going to see blockbuster films in the cinema. It kicks ass, and I'm glad it's doing well. Yeah, Tom Cruise, man, he's a
yeah,
weird dude, but he's
weird
just
dude, but
you can't not watch him.
absolutely, I'll be first in line for Mission Impossible. The new was it Dead Reckoning? Is it
Yes, part one.
part one? Yeah, looking forward to that. Right, this is going to be really an episode of completely opposite halves. Um,
Yes.
I mean, we haven't really talked about this movie yet, but we've exchanged messages, and I can pretty much guess how Alex feels about this. We two very lucky boys got to see the ultimate finale of the Jurassic World franchise. The OG characters are back. Dinos are now roaming the Earth, sharing it with man. How's it all going to end?
Yeah, it. I wasn't sure whether I was going to watch this film or not, and then Chris, you said you were going to see it, and I thought, well, for the podcast, it's going to make a good episode. It's very relevant right now. It literally only came
Twisted
out
your arm.
last weekend. I I I quite like the first Jurassic World film. I thought, looking at the Jurassic Park, uh, in a modern day setting where it's open and highly commercialized and stuff like that, really interesting idea. Execution lacks in some areas, but I think that first Jurassic World film is a pretty fun film.
Mhm.
Then Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom came out a few years ago. Um, and I'm not gonna lie, I think I hated that film. It was long and boring and weird, and I've always had this weird thing about Jurassic World where, like, why does it have the monopoly on dinosaur films? People love dinosaurs. Kids love dinosaurs. Why is there only one dinosaur franchise? And I feel like Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom decided to make 7 dinosaur films in one. They were all bonkers. They were all kind of like half baked. I think if you took any one of those ideas and actually like thought about it and made it good, like you could make it good if you just like made it solely about that idea. But again, they were 7 ideas, and maybe only one of them was a Jurassic Park film. The others were just kind of like weird B movie things, lasers pointing at people to set killer
Yeah.
dinosaurs on them, cloned kids and stuff like that. The one good thing that Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom did was it set up dinosaurs having to be, you know, living amongst humans because they've been set wild or something. Don't fully remember. Uh, you know,
But that is like the false promise of the movie, and it's like we were promised that we're going to get a movie with a world that's dealing with dinosaurs roaming in it. There's nothing to do with the world coping with these creatures entering their day to day lives. There's a 10-minute there's like a news snippet at the beginning, and then like they find an excuse for the second half of the movie to be in a nude park, and
it's
it's
ridiculous.
yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. It was just like you give us 20 minutes of being like dinosaurs in the real world. Okay, that's cool. There's about 100 million different things going on at the start. It's very just like bloody hell. Why are
Oh
there
yeah,
so many characters?
the
Why is
amount
there
of
so many
title
things
cards we
going on?
have of different locations, like it must have been like over 10 different globe-trotting locations in the first like half hour.
And
I was
I find it
counting
really
some keeping
difficult
track.
to care about like any single one. That's the dinosaurs in the real world scenarios. I liked that, and then like you said, the film has the audacity to to just scrape that premise within like half an hour, and bring you back to another park. Really?
Yeah, like it does like do that that bit for a minute where they go to Malta, and then it's like this really, I don't know, it's like is it an adventure? Is it scary? Is it action film? What genre are you? There is like I said, there's one piece of Malta with Dino stealing pirates and Pratt being chased on a motorbike by like raptors, and it's filmed like it's in a like a bad impression of a James Bond or Jason Bourne
Yeah,
movie. It's like this sequence also like features that really cartoonish villain. I forget the character's name, but she's wearing like this white outfit, and she reminded me of like those bad video game cutscene villains you get from like old PlayStation 2 games, and the villain tries to escape or sabotage the good guys, and then she just disappears from the movie. The movie just forgot that she was in it. I didn't
yeah.
care when she entered it. I didn't care when she left it. It's just there's so much random stuff thrown at the
And the
screen.
CIA are there.
Oh, were they?
Like
I forgot. I flew over my head.
the CIA are there. They're like that's the other bit. I was like, are they making a James Bond film here? It's like the idea of a dinosaur black market was quite interesting. Again, it was like how would people react to having dinosaurs in the real world? Yeah, of course they treat them like Pokemon, and like try and all the rich people would buy the rare ones and stuff like that, and you'd have the militarized ones because for some reason pointing a laser at somebody and setting a dinosaur after them is easier than just shooting them. I mean, if you could point at them in the laser in the first place, you just shoot them, right? You just shoot them. Anyway.
I mean, like, and the original Jurassic Park movie, I don't know about you, but it was all about the sort of like the magic and wonder of bringing this sort of like this taboo thing of bringing back um the OG, like, um land dwellers on our planet, bring them back and all the magic and wonder of that, and also the scariness of that too. But it's like, does Colin Trevorrow just hate dinosaurs? I mean, I don't know what's going to be really great for this generation of kids. Let's militarize dinosaurs and let's see them be tortured. Let's see them be really unhappy and horrible things happen to them for our entertainment. I mean, isn't that like pretty much like opposite of what we want to do with these movies?
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't help that I know they've got the original cast back, and I guess there's an element of like, all right, that's pretty cool. But I just didn't care about anyone. I didn't care about anyone, and the film didn't kill anyone. I always remember with the first Jurassic Park
Yes.
film, like the main emotion I remember feeling from that film was terrified, or looking at dinosaurs and then absolutely terrified because, oh yeah, dinosaurs are scary and they kill people. And even though they don't kill the main characters of those films, there's side characters that are fleshed out enough that you feel bad when they die, even if they're a bit of a jerk at
Yeah.
times, you know but everybody here who gets eaten by a dinosaur is just like a no-named cardboard cutout
Yeah.
pirate
I
person.
actually have to give Lauren credit here because my partner Lauren, when we went to see it, she said that it would have been a really good idea if they killed off um, Ian Malcolm. Like that would have at least just injected a little bit more like life in it or something like that, or just something like, okay, you're actually willing to do something that is
Yeah,
unexpected here, something like that. But everything is just like you're just going from set piece to set piece with really dodgy CGI dinosaurs that is like actually it's never sparingly used, so you end up feeling so numb and desensitized when you watch these things. So, and to be honest, when there are a few kids in the cinema watching it with their parents when we went to see it, and if one of them just started to get restless and started making noise, I'm not sure I would have blamed them. I'm not sure I
yeah.
would have blamed
I
them.
I struggled with the last act of the film. As soon as everybody was back in another Jurassic Park and it was playing out the same beats of like, oh, there's a T-Rex like dinosaur and we have to hide and not let it eat us and stuff like that. I was like, I've seen this. I'm not scared by it because you've already proven you're not willing to kill anybody. Um, I just yeah. Oh, and here the T-Rex comes in at the end of the day to save people. I just
Like
was
the
like, I
first
was
movie
looking at my
did.
watch. I was looking at my watch and I was just like, I've seen this and I'm bored of this. You've not taken this in any new direction. Even the nostalgia doesn't work for me. I don't think they captured any of the kind of energy of that first Jurassic Park film, and it did make me wonder, like, has there actually been like like there's a couple of half decent Jurassic Park sequels, but nothing is ever even close to reaching the heights of that first film. And it makes you
Yeah.
wonder, like, surely this is the time to make this franchise extinct, right?
I think it has run its course, 100%. Like, look, when the trailer dropped for this film, Jurassic World Dominion, I have to admit, I actually was cautiously kind of excited for this. It had been a while since I had seen the first two Jurassic World movies, and I remembered bits and pieces. It's like I retroactively thought I kind of liked the first movie, even though I probably didn't when I first saw it. So I rewatched the other two just to make sure last week in preparation for this episode. Instantly knew I had made a big mistake, Alex. In all fairness, though, Jurassic World Dominion makes Jurassic World 1 look like a masterpiece. I mean, like, just what were they thinking? I felt like I was watching an early screen test. It was a mess. It was dull. It was ridiculous. There are lots of characters on screen, but sadly, like I said, none of them have any rapport with each other or even anything definable about them. It was just boring. If you want a good place to chill out, maybe before a big test, kids, and revise, or simply do your taxes, then I'd recommend everybody buy a ticket to Jurassic World Dominion. Get a seat in the back and get all your papers out in front of you. It's nice and relaxed down there.
Oh man, it's mad, and it's quite a shame. And I didn't catch up with the films, and maybe that was a good thing because, like I said, I do think the first Jurassic World film's pretty decent. But I couldn't bring myself to sit through Fallen Kingdom again, and I think that was the film that kind of, you know, dashed my hopes
Yeah,
of and my expectations of this film. Again, I was like you, I saw the trailer and I thought, okay, it could be decent, but I wasn't willing to get any of my hopes up for it. And I think that's why this one doesn't sting as much as Fallen Kingdom sting. But
yeah.
it's just a shame that this film is so boring. And it feels like such a chore to get through. Um, yeah, it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me.
Should we like maybe outline, try to attempt to outline what this movie's about?
We could give it a stab. It's essentially it's the original characters going on an adventure, and the new Jurassic World characters going on an adventure, and they kind of converge uh, near the end. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. Really like Bryce Dallas Howard, by the way. I think she is one of the better parts of the Jurassic World casting. Um, they're
Yeah.
living out somewhere with the clone girl of I can't remember the name of the guy.
Yeah. Dr. Hammond.
That's it. Dr. Hammond's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. And they obviously being a clone, everybody wants her because she's the first ever clone. Um so she gets kidnapped, as does a baby velociraptor, which there's kind of no point in that subplot, really, is there? Like, the main peril is just she gets kidnapped, but, I guess baby velociraptor, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
and so then Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have to go after her because they are her parents, even though they pretty much have zero chemistry with the clone girl, I would say.
She's only known them for 4 years, and she's calling them mum and dad. What's that about?
Yeah, she was like 10 when she met him. Like, you think like she'd still, yeah, I get that point. Very weird. Very weird. Um and
And I
then the
want
other
to.
storyline, do you want to go for the original characters?
Oh, well, yeah, you got like I think most people will probably agree that the saving grace of this film is bringing back the original three actors from Jurassic Park. You have Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and of course Jeff Goldblum. Brilliant, but it even highlighted how bad the script was that I barely even found their interactions enjoyable. Laura Dern makes a comment about someone sliding into her DMs. Um, Sam Neill is like an old granddad having a non-argument with a hipster barista over cortados and macchiatos, and Jeff Goldblum, just bless his heart, is trying his best just to make the unfunniest jokes funny. In fact, he actually succeeds a couple of times. To be honest,
He
that was
does.
probably the best part of the film.
Did you think, Chris? So Campbell Scott from the Amazing Spider-Man films, and I can't not uh, remember him as Peter Parker's dad. And every time he came up, it gave me memories of Amazing Spider-Man, especially with all the kind of blue computer screens surrounding him
Yeah,
for most of the time. But so first of all, he's playing a character who was in the original Jurassic Park film, but they recast because the original actor is in prison, I think, for sex crimes. So not good. So he's playing the one of the original characters, but
I'm
again,
so confused already. Right, I didn't even know that. I thought he was just like a new guy.
no, he's playing one of the original people, but it's like a very much a side character in those films. I think he was part of the one of the kind of spies or one of the government people. Anyway, he plays that character, and I don't remember the character either, to be honest with you. He plays the character with a very Goldblum kind of flair. He's very odd. In some scenes, he's very like he's incoherent, and then in other scenes, he's very much the boss of people.
It's
But
very disarming.
he does it with this kind of it's very awkward and weird. And when him and Jeff Goldblum get into an interaction with each other, and they're kind of having a bit of an argument, I mean, Goldblum's already coined that kind of weird, kind of jittery nature of and kind of flair that he gives. Just generally, it's just him, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that was
But when
quite
it was
funny.
going up against Campbell Scott's weird kind of flair as well, I thought the scene was just so weird and
Yeah,
awkward. It really took me out of the film. I was like, it's almost as if like Goldblum was playing up against somebody pretending to be him.
I think Goldblum knows exactly what movie he's in.
Oh yeah, Jeff Goldblum's great, and like I said, like he's coined that kind of performance anyway, so it's not any kind of disservice to him. It's just a very odd scene, but yeah, the original characters, they are trying to find out if the character that Campbell Scott plays, he runs a company, Biosyn, and they have
Biosin,
essentially.
because the clues in the title, sin. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. They've
yeah,
essentially they've got the new Jurassic Park. They're doing lots of experiments and stuff for healthcare and whatnot, but they've also developed um, locusts,
yeah,
Jurassic locusts. That
yeah. Kids, y'all were excited to see these locusts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You came for the dinosaurs and you stay for the locusts. Yeah, these locusts that eat crops that haven't been fertilized with biosyn fertilizers. They're kind of getting down to the bottom of that conspiracy, and then they meet up with the clone girl because obviously it's biosyn that have kidnapped the clone girl, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
they all kind of converge, and there's a big, even bigger than T-Rex dinosaur. I can't remember what they called it. Do you remember?
Even no, it's from like the Cretaceous period. So we have a lot of dinosaurs from that period, that kind of newly discovered dinosaurs. Like you got ones with the feathers and things like that. But yeah, there's like a T Rex but bigger. Yeah,
Yeah, T-Rex but bigger. So yeah, and they save the day. Everybody wins, and you gotta close the park and destroy the locusts. That's our final Jurassic World film. Potentially, it's gonna make a lot of money, so probably not our last one. But man, let somebody else have dinosaurs for once.
yeah. I know what you mean. I mean, like we have had dinosaur movies before, but they're always been like a way lower budget. Like you get your movies like Journey 2, or things like that. But yeah, I know. There's so many things. I actually would say one performance I actually did not mind, and you might disagree, is I actually quite like BD1 in this. And I find him in the last two movies quite annoying. But here, where he has an exchange with Hammond's clone daughter, yeah, whatever. They have an exchange together where he's actually it is an exposition scene, but there's a conviction that he gives in the scene where he's like really talking about the sort of like the grace and beauty of dinosaurs and what it was like in the first Jurassic Park to make these things. And he's the only character I sort of believed who really actually felt passionate about what's going on here and sort of evoked what Jurassic Park was about. And I thought he kind of delivered that sort of scene really well. That was the only time I was kind of like, okay, I'm sort of enjoying that. But yeah, I don't want to be rude to her, to a young, because she's only like a young child actress, so I won't spend much time on it. But Isabella Sermon playing Hamid's clone daughter, she's really not good at all. Um, and it's I know I hate to say it, but every time she says a line, it's really not coming over very convincing, and that's all I'll say about that.
I think
But
my biggest shame with her character was her kind of, well, everybody's arc really. For her, it was very much like, I don't want to be locked away. I want freedom. Um, But at the end of the film, they're all back where they started. Like Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, and our clone girl. They're all back in the American countryside, hiding away from everybody. Our original characters are all back doing their thing. Dinosaurs still live in the real world, and we have to deal with it. Like, there's no change. There's no change. Like Chris Pratt doesn't get an arc. I don't think Bryce Dallas Howard gets an arc. Like, she's trying
no,
to kind of get over some of the guilt of being one of the operations managers of the first Jurassic World. But again, there's no
yeah,
really any closure to that, and nobody really gets any growth here. Sam Neill
no.
maybe gets to end up with Laura Dern at the end of the film, but even that's left ambiguous. He's just like, I'm coming with you, and no, like nobody
Do you not think?
changes, nobody
Do you not think
learns
they made?
anything.
I feel sorry for Sam Neill in this. I think they made him really
Like,
uncool. They just kind of made him seem like a bit lame. Like he was just
yeah,
sort of a real passenger in this. You were saying about Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and I don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of both of them when they're in the right project, but they just have no chemistry together on screen at all. And the last film, it, like the last film, it forgets that they are actually a couple sometimes, and then
yeah,
and then the movie wakes up every sort of hour or so and throws in a kissing to remind us all that they're in love. Yeah, it's just boggling. It just doesn't know what it's doing. It went went for the militarization of dinosaurs teased in the first movie, doubled down in the second one, and then had to commit to it in the third one, and
yeah,
then and that's it. But it's just, yeah, it's ran its course. You watch the action scenes and you're like, I know what's going to happen. It's going to do the thing. It's going to be exactly the same shots as you've seen before. It's going to almost get the guy, get the girl, and then they get away, and then on to the next set piece. And then you're just sitting there and you're just like, okay, whatever. And the CGI did not look good. I think it looked worse than the other two movies.
yeah, yeah. You can tell with some of the smaller dinosaurs they use some puppetry and stuff like that, but yeah, for the most part, I just didn't feel any peril. I never felt like a dinosaur caused any peril here, and it became less and less about dinosaurs as it went on, and more about locusts. And yeah, it's not what I came to Jurassic World for. I wanted to see the dinosaurs in the world and how people have reacted to this. And like I said, we got maybe 20 minutes of that before just kind of pushing it aside. Give me something interesting. Like how weird is it that we cohabitate uh
I
with
know
dinosaurs now?
it's almost romanticized at the end, where it's like, you know what, we might just be okay. You know, this
Yeah.
this might be okay. What are you on about? Like, you're just going to be in school one day, and there's like Velociraptor's going to come down your school corridor and kill half the kids, and it's like, it's something we live with now. You know?
It's not the velociraptors we need to ban. We need
I know.
velociraptors in school. We need good velociraptors to stop the bad velociraptors.
And you'll just get like giant birds stealing your pets in your back garden and things like that. It's just gonna be, it's awful.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. You'll never let your dog out in the garden ever again.
There's no logic. Anyway, yeah. In conclusion, check out Jurassic World Dominion. It is a masterpiece.
No, no, let's let this franchise die. We've had enough, and it's a shame because I loved Colin Trevorrow's first film, Safety Not Guaranteed, and it's such a shame that his kind of talents have been wasted on the Jurassic World franchise when potentially we could have had a few more smaller films like that, which could have been more interesting.
Did you see the short film in between the last Jurassic World and this one that he directed, Battle at Big Rock?
Yeah, it was good.
It's actually, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Felt like Jurassic Park
Yeah.
kind of vibes. But there you go. How so obviously this is two films here, one that haven't come out too far away from each other, but kind of show the difference in quality in maybe blockbuster films this year. I don't think there's been too many duds, but this episode comes out pretty much slap bang in the middle of halfway through the year. What do you think of 2022 so far?
Yeah, I think so far it's been a pretty decent year so far, with obviously lots more movies to catch up on. Obviously, we're post COVID now, and things are being released that should have been released a couple of years ago. And it's kind of hard to actually look at this year as saying, are all these movies technically from this year? And we've got a lot of pullback from last year's American releases. So there's a lot of mixed things thrown in there. But yeah, I mean, in terms of cinema releases, it's been quite quiet, and there've been a few little gems thrown in there. But I think all the good stuff's for is being saved for the second half.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. I must say I think we've had a very good start to the year for blockbuster films so far. Um, you know, the Batman,
the Batman, yes, of course.
the
Actually, I forgot about that.
Batman, Top Gun,
Jurassic World Dominion.
not Jurassic World Dominion. I need to remember what I wanted to say about
Oh,
when you
oh,
come out.
we've had like movies like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Smaller films like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Apollo 10 and a half, Worst Person in the World. They've been great, and I think in terms of blockbuster films, I think we've had some really interesting films. You've had The Northman come out as a big studio film. The
Oh
Batman.
yeah, yeah.
These are two films that, like, very much their directors have tried to really do something different, and put a lot of love into what's you're seeing on the screen. Same again with Top Gun Maverick, which we've just seen. I think there's been I think it's been a pretty decent start to the year so far, personally. Like you said, I do think there's a lot of good stuff to come still, but yeah, I think 2022 is shaping up to be good if it can keep up with the quality of things like Top Gun Maverick. I did not think that Top Gun Maverick would be one of my favorite films of the year. I just thought it was going to be a good fun time at the cinema, but do you know what? Honestly, one of the best things I've seen this year.
Have you got like a sort of like list of things that you're really looking forward to in the rest of the year? Have you got like a sort of what standout titles are there that you feel like you're really looking forward to? I mean, I can give you five off the top of my head that I'm really sort of keen to see. I would say probably really big one. It's quite it's probably the most basic one on my list, but I'm really looking forward to actually Avatar: The Way of Water. Just because
Yep.
it's been so long, and I just want to see like how much of a sequel it is to the last movie, or what James Cameron is just doing with this movie at all. I mean, obviously it's going to be
Yep.
beautiful to look
100%.
at. Um, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the narrative of the first movie. I mean, I think that movie is kind of it's overly simplistic and overly long and bloated, but it's pretty to look at. But I'm always up for a James Cameron movie, so it's definitely on my list. We got Nope is coming out soon. Jordan Peele's
Yep.
latest film. Hasn't been in the directing chair for long, but sure as hell has made an impression with both Get Out and Us, to the point that he's already got a devoted fan base, I feel. So really looking forward to that, and also just a great name for a horror film too. Nope.
Yep.
Sums it up probably perfectly.
You've got that. I think it's going to be interesting, but you've got like the first kind of X-rated studio film with the Marilyn Monroe film coming out on Netflix with Anna de Armas, which I think is the directors are already setting it up to be quite a controversial film, and Netflix have wanted them to push back on some of the stuff depicted in it. So I think that could be an interesting watch, because I don't think there's been an X-rated studio film in a long time. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. You got Taika Waititi coming back for Thor: Love and Thunder next month, which I think could be interesting to see. Even if I don't know about
Yes,
you,
of
Chris. Well,
course.
you almost most definitely are marveled out. If I'm getting marveled out and I'm a Marvel fan, you're definitely marveled out. So yeah, getting a little bit of Marvel fatigue. So I'm looking forward to that. But if it's just another kind of you know
It's
average film, I think I'm getting a bit tired.
I don't know. I think we're swapping places here. I'm actually really excited for it. I'm planning on catching up with a lot more Marvel TV shows that I haven't seen yet. And I'm like, again, I'm way better whenever the dust is sort of settled and I come into it at my own pace. And I'm actually really enjoying catching up with all of my Marvel blind spots at the minute. I think another one I'm really looking forward to is Don't Worry, Darling, which is Olivia
Mm,
Wilde's sophomore movie, and it's a horror it's a horror film that is set in the suburban 1950s USA and boasts, stars such as Florence Pugh, even Harry Styles. So, yeah, I'm definitely up for that just to see what that
going
sort of movie looks like.
going down the thriller route as well. We've got the Black Phone, which I think is coming out next week or the week after. Scott Derrickson's new
Yes.
horror thriller film with Ethan Hawke looks weird. Early reviews say it's excellent. So yeah, no, I'm very much into that. They obviously did Sinister a little while back now, which is a pretty decent horror film. And Scott Derrickson then went
Mm.
on to do Doctor Strange, which I think is really good in the Marvel films. And I just, me, massive Ethan Hawke fan. I will watch anything he
Oh,
does. So
same.
yeah, excited to see him maybe go down a scarier route here.
And here's a bit of a curveball here, and it's coming out later, the later part of this year. I'm actually really excited for Spielberg's The Fablemans, um, which is probably going to be his most personal movie. And obviously, Spielberg's father passed away recently, and it's always been known for decades that Spielberg's always been quite public with his relationship with his father. Has always been quite um it's been quite a contentious relationship in his life, and he later on became really strong friends of his father and forgave him for his feelings as a father when he was a boy. And he waited for his father to actually, as a respectful gesture, waited for his father to pass away so he could finally make this movie. So he's been planning to make this movie for quite a few many years, and it is a biopic of Spielberg's childhood. And it's directed by Spielberg, so I'm pretty interested in that.
Wow, that's yeah. Do you know what? That is new to me, and wasn't aware of that film. That Spielberg even had a film coming out this year, so automatically very excited for that one. So yeah, there's definitely some good stuff coming, and I think it's been a good start to the year so far. So I think 2022 is shaping up to be a pretty decent year for film after maybe a kind of lackluster last couple, which isn't all cinema's fault. We've had a pandemic on our hands, but yeah, yeah.
So, Alex, it's been really nice to have you back and get back into the rhythm of making episodes again. And yeah, it's been great catching up on two very, very different movies today. Obviously, next week we're going to have a bit more of a general discussion about sort of movies that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks since we've been taking a break. So, there's definitely a few things that I've caught up with, a few very different films. I'm really excited to talk about those with you. And yeah, for now, this has been the Film Angle. Thank you very much for listening, and please make sure to rate us or follow us or subscribe on our Instagram platforms at the Film Angle, and listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts from. But for now, I'm Kris.
I'm Alex, and Chris, you can be my wingman anytime.
You be lucky.